Missouri wants to join an exclusive club of states without income taxes now. But to make it all happen, lawmakers would have to shift the tax burden to sales taxes. Our Missouri Capitol Bureau reporter Hannah Falcon reports tonight in Jefferson City.
9 states have no state income tax, and Missouri wants to become number 10. But before the Show Me State goes all in, I checked in with experts in 2 states that have already made the switch. The Sunshine and Lone Star states are the poster children for no income tax. Both lean on sales taxes, charging between 6 and 8%. Missouri wants to shift towards sales taxes as well, but here's what those states have that Missouri doesn't.
We have so many tourist attractions, plus the great weather to drive that massive number of people that come here every year.
Jeff Kottkamp with Florida Tax Watch says those tourists pump billions into the state every year, taking pressure off residents' wallets. Texas took a different approach.
Middle class that's being squeezed in the property tax game because then they're paying sales tax, they're paying gasoline tax, and they're the ones that are just trying to make ends meet and they can't afford it.
Michael Reeves, a Texas tax expert, points out that even without income taxes, Texans face a heavy property tax burden. The middle class, he says, bears the brunt. Back in Missouri, supporters see an opportunity to modernize the tax system.
Income taxes is one of the worst ways to fund the government. We could probably do it in better ways.
But Democrats are not convinced.
It's going to shift the burden, just like Senator Lewis said, from millionaires down to middle class.
Out-of-state experts warn Missouri can't wait.
If you look around the country at the states that don't have an income tax, they're not only surviving, they're thriving.
Missouri's plan requires voter approval, so if it gets the green light here, then you'll be voting on it in November. Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Hannah Falcon.
Now